47 experts. 47 of the best, most trained, most highly paid professionals in the entire galaxy. And every single one of them failed. Some quit after 1 hour. Some lasted a day. A few never even made it through the front door twice. One reportedly ran so fast he left his shoes behind. The most powerful queen in the known universe could command fleets, move planets, and end wars with a single word. But she could not find one single soul to handle her children. Not one, until a human showed up. Not a soldier, not a scientist, not a diplomat with fancy titles and expensive suits. A janitor. A quiet, unremarkable man who carried a mop and smelled like cleaning fluid. And what he did inside that royal palace bedroom, in less than 20 minutes, left the queen standing in her doorway with her mouth open and her eyes full of tears. This is that story. This is the story of how the most overlooked human in the galaxy walked into the most impossible situation in the universe. And let me show you exactly how this happened. His name was Marcus Webb. Nobody really noticed Marcus. That was kind of the whole point of his life. He was the guy who showed up before everyone else arrived and left after everyone else went home. He cleaned the floors that important people walked on. He emptied the trash cans that powerful people filled. He wiped the windows that rich people looked through without ever once looking back at him. Marcus was 34 years old. Medium height. Medium build. Brown eyes that always looked a little tired. He had a small scar above his left eyebrow from a childhood fall off a bicycle. He wore a gray cap that was one size too big, and his blue maintenance uniform had a small name tag that said Webb in faded black letters. He worked on a space station called Meridian Cross. It was one of the biggest transit hubs in the outer region. Ships came and went every hour. Thousands of species passed through every single day. Ambassadors, merchants, scientists, warriors, diplomats, and refugees all moved through those same corridors. And Marcus cleaned up after all of them. He had worked on Meridian Cross for 6 years. He knew every hallway, every corner, every broken light panel that facilities management kept forgetting to fix. He knew which cleaning solution worked on Vreth slime and which one made it worse. He knew that the Kalhari delegates always spilled their blue ceremonial drink near Bay 7. He knew that the Drossian traders left behind a specific kind of metallic dust that clogged the ventilation filters if you did not sweep it up within 2 hours. He knew things that nobody thought to write down, because nobody thought to ask him. On the morning that everything changed, Marcus was on level 9, scrubbing a stretch of corridor outside the diplomatic suites. It was quiet up there. Most of the high-level visitors were still asleep or in private meetings. The lights were dimmed to their morning setting. The whole hallway had that still, early feeling that Marcus actually liked. Peaceful, empty, his. He was halfway through his second pass when he heard it. Not a scream exactly, more like a sound between a scream and a crack of thunder. Then another one. Then something heavy hitting, wall hard enough that the floor vibrated slightly under his feet. Marcus stopped pushing the mop. He looked down the corridor towards Suite 912. The door was sealed. A red indicator light blinked slowly above the frame, which meant do not enter. He could see 3 station security officers standing further down the hall near the service exit. They were not moving toward the noise. They were standing very still, looking at the floor, looking at each other, looking at literally anything except that door. Marcus recognized that posture. He had seen it before. It was the posture of people who had been told this is above your level. Stay back. Do not get involved. He went back to mopping. The sound came again. Louder this time. Then a third sound, higher and sharper, like something made of glass, but not quite glass, shattering somewhere inside the room. Then a voice. 2 voices. Small voices, but with a strange resonance to them that made the air in the corridor feel slightly different, like pressure before a storm. One of the security officers walked quickly past Marcus without making eye contact. Then another one followed. Within about 90 seconds, the hallway outside Suite 912 was completely empty, except for Marcus and his mop bucket. He stood there for a moment. He looked at the door. He looked at his mop. He looked at the door again. Later, when people asked him why he did what he did next, Marcus would just shrug and say he did not really think about it. The floor near the suite door had a scuff mark that was bothering him. A dark streak, probably from something being dragged, and he needed to clean it. So he walked over, and he knocked. Nobody told him to. Nobody asked him to. There was no instruction from management, no emergency alert on his communicator, no dramatic sense of destiny rising up inside his chest. He just knocked because the floor needed cleaning and the door was in the way. The door opened, and Marcus Webb, janitor, Level 9 maintenance crew, Meridian Cross Station, stepped into the most important moment of his entire life. The first thing Marcus saw was the ceiling. Specifically, a large piece of the ceiling that was no longer attached to the ceiling. It was hovering, just floating there about 4 feet above the main bed, spinning slowly, like it had forgotten gravity was supposed to apply to it. The second thing he saw was the furniture. 2 bedside tables, both of them pressed flat against the far wall like someone had glued them there sideways. A tall wardrobe unit pushed completely into a corner and tilted at an angle that should not have been physically possible. 3 pillows arranged in a perfect triangle pattern near the window, glowing faintly with a soft blue light around their edges. The third thing he saw was them. 2 children. They looked about 5 years old, maybe 6. Small, pale blue skin, bright hair the color of deep ocean water. Their eyes were large and silver, and currently fixed directly on Marcus with an expression he could not immediately name. Not anger, not fear, something more like assessment, like they were deciding something about him before he even opened his mouth. They were sitting in the middle of the bed, perfectly still, perfectly upright, hands folded in their laps, looking at him. Behind Marcus, the door clicked shut on its own. He stood there for a second. He looked at the floating ceiling panel. He looked at the sideways furniture. He looked at the glowing pillows. He looked back at the children. Then he looked at the floor. There were scuff marks everywhere. Something dark and slightly sticky near the foot of the bed. A fine gray dust he did not recognize spread in a wide arc from the center of the room. His professional brain was already categorizing it, already thinking about which solutions he would need, already noting that the ventilation grill near the window was completely blocked with what appeared to be a dense tangle of some kind of material. He set his mop bucket down carefully. He pulled out a small handheld scanner that he used for identifying foreign substances on station surfaces. He crouched down near the gray dust and scanned it. The scanner beeped softly. He read the result. He did not know what the substance was, but the scanner told him it was not toxic and not corrosive. Fine. He could work with that. He started sweeping. Not dramatically. Not carefully in the way you act careful when someone is watching you trying to be careful. Just the normal, efficient way he always swept. The way 6 years of doing this job had made completely automatic in his hands and feet. One of the children made a sound. Marcus glanced up. The child on the left, the one with a slightly rounder face, was watching him with their head tilted. The silver eyes tracked the movement of the broom. Then the child looked at their twin. Some kind of silent communication passed between them, fast and invisible. Marcus went back to sweeping. The ceiling panel drifted lower. He noticed it in his peripheral vision, coming down slowly toward the bed. He stepped over, reached up calmly, pressed it back into place against the ceiling, and held it there for a moment. It stayed. Good. He made a mental note to put in a maintenance request for ceiling adhesive reinforcement in this suite, because something was clearly wrong with the attachment mechanism. He moved to the sideways wardrobe. He studied it for a moment, tilted his head, reached behind it and found the problem immediately. A support brace had completely detached from the wall mount. He unclipped his multi-tool from his belt, selected the right head, and reattached the brace in about 40 seconds flat. The wardrobe slid back to vertical with a soft, satisfied sound. Marcus collected the brace fragments, put them in his waist pouch, and turned around. Both children were now sitting at the edge of the bed, watching him, completely silent. The glowing around the pillows had faded. The floating, the pressure, the strange energy that had filled the room when he walked in. It was quieter now. Not gone, but quieter. Marcus nodded at them politely, the way he nodded at any resident whose space he was cleaning. Then he moved to the next mess. Nobody had ever just ignored them before. That was the thing. Every single person who had entered that room before Marcus had come in with an agenda. The nannies came in with techniques and strategies, and carefully prepared behavioral plans printed on data pads. The child specialists came in with credentials and calming devices and soft voices that were clearly performing calm rather than actually feeling it. The royal advisors came in with authority, standing very straight, speaking in formal tones, addressing the children as young highnesses with a stiffness that the twins could sense from across the room. Everyone came in trying to handle them. Marcus came in to clean the floor. And somehow, without understanding exactly why, the twins found that completely fascinating. His name was Kale. His twin was Sierra. They were 5 years old and they were, by the official assessment of 11 different galactic child development specialists, profoundly advanced psychic children with acute emotional sensitivity and extraordinary telekinetic range for their age group. In simpler terms, they could feel everything everyone around them was feeling, and when those feelings were fear, stress, performance anxiety, or thinly disguised desperation, the twins responded by making the environment match how they felt inside. Chaotic, unstable, impossible. Because that is what it feels like to be a small child who can sense every adult around them secretly panicking and pretending they are not. Kale watched the human move to the window area and begin carefully clearing the blocked ventilation grill. The human was not performing. That was the first thing Kale had noticed. His emotional field was simple and clear. Mild curiosity about the gray dust substance. Quiet satisfaction when the wardrobe went back into place. A small spike of professional interest when he discovered the ventilation blockage. Nothing hidden underneath. No fear wrapped in a smile. No desperation disguised as patience. Just a person doing a job. Sierra slid off the bed and walked over to stand about 3 feet behind Marcus as he worked on the grill. Marcus glanced back, saw her standing there, nodded once, turned back to the grill. Sierra stood there watching him work. After about 2 minutes, she crouched down and picked up a small piece of debris that had fallen from the grill onto the floor. She held it out toward him. Marcus looked at it, looked at her, took it from her hand, said quietly, "Thank you," and put it in his waist pouch. Sierra looked at her own hand. Then she looked at Marcus. Then she went back to the bed and sat next to Kale. Kale looked at her. She made a small gesture. He looked back at Marcus. Then Kale got up too. He walked to the other side of Marcus and crouched down near another piece of debris. Picked it up. Held it out. Marcus took it without stopping his work. Said thank you again. Exactly the same way. Same tone. No big deal. And something in the room changed. Not dramatically. Not the way the stories would later tell it, with golden light and dramatic musical swells, and a sense that destiny itself had shifted. It was quieter than that. More like the moment when a storm finally decides it is finished, and the air just settles, and everything gets still. The last of the blue glow faded from the pillows. The ceiling stayed where it was supposed to be. Cale and Sierra stood on either side of Marcus as he finished clearing the grill, both of them occasionally handing him small pieces as he pulled them free, both of them completely quiet, both of them simply present in the way that children are present when they finally feel safe enough to just exist without bracing for something. Marcus finished the grill. He stood up. He looked around the room, scanning for anything else that needed attention. The room was clean. He picked up his bucket. He turned toward the door. And Cale said, in a very small, very clear voice, his first words to any caretaker in 4 months. "Will you come back tomorrow?" Marcus stopped. He turned around. He looked at the two of them standing there in the middle of the clean room. He said, "I'll be on level 9 tomorrow morning." Cale nodded seriously. "Okay." Marcus left. And for the first time in 4 months, both twins fell asleep before anyone had to ask them to. The queen's name was Valeth. Formally, she was addressed as her sovereign radiance, first queen of the Ethon Dominion, protector of the 7 reaches. She was, by any reasonable measure, one of the 10 most powerful individuals in the known galaxy. She had negotiated treaties that ended wars lasting decades. She had stood in rooms full of hostile alien leaders and not flinched. She had buried a husband, carried twins alone, and ruled an empire without showing weakness once. She had been standing in the corridor outside Suite 912 for 40 minutes. She had watched 3 of her senior security staff walk away from that door. She had received the latest report from her chief advisor, which confirmed that the 47th Specialist had formally withdrawn from the assignment that morning, citing, and this was the actual official language, an environment incompatible with professional function. Valeth had read that report in her private chamber and then sat very still for a long time. Her children were not monsters. She needed people to understand that. They were brilliant and sensitive, and they felt everything, every tremor of dishonesty and every flicker of hidden fear, and they responded to it, the only way small children can respond when the world keeps sending them adults who are pretending. They pushed back. They tested. They shook the room until the pretending stopped. She had tried explaining this to the specialists. None of them had truly understood it. When the security alert came through that someone had entered Suite 912 without clearance, Valeth had moved faster than she had moved in years. She reached the corridor in under 2 minutes. She stood outside the door and she listened. Silence. Not the silence of disaster. Not the held-breath silence of someone desperately trying not to make things worse. Just silence. Normals. Quiet. Nothing happening silence. She pressed her hand to the door panel. The visual feed from inside the suite came up on her palm screen. She saw a man in a blue uniform fixing her ventilation grill. She saw her children standing next to him, handing him pieces of debris. She did not move for a very long time. She watched him finish. She watched him pick up his bucket. She watched Cale speak to him, and watched the man turn around, and watched the short exchange that followed. Then she watched Marcus leave, and watched her children stand in the middle of the clean, quiet, normal room, and watched them look at each other with an expression she had not seen on their faces in months. Calm. Simple, uncomplicated calm. She stepped back from the door panel. She stood in the corridor alone for a moment. One of her senior advisors appeared at the far end of the hall, moving toward her with a data pad and the expression of someone who had more bad news to deliver. She held up one hand. He stopped. She said, very quietly, "Find out who that maintenance worker is." His full record, station assignment, performance history, everything. The advisor blinked. The janitor, your radiance. The man who just succeeded where 47 specialists failed, she said. Yes. She went back to her chamber. She sat down. She read the full file on Marcus Webb in about 12 minutes. Unremarkable was the word her advisors would have used. 6 years of clean performance reviews. No disciplinary record. No special certifications. No advanced training. No published work or academic credentials. A quiet, steady, invisible presence on level 9 of Meridian Cross. She read the file twice. Then she sent a personal communication directly to Marcus Webb's station communicator. Not through her advisors, not formatted in official royal language. Just a direct, short message from her own device. It said, I would like to speak with you. Tomorrow morning. Suite 912. If you are willing. Marcus received the message while eating a sandwich in the maintenance break room on level 4. He read it. He looked at his sandwich. He read it again. Then he typed back, I can come after my level 9 sweep. Around 800 hours if that works. She replied within 10 seconds. That works perfectly. Marcus showed up at 800 hours exactly. He had his mop bucket with him because level 9 still needed its morning sweep, and he figured he might as well be efficient. He had his gray cap on. His name tag still said Webb in faded letters. He had the same quiet, unhurried expression he always wore, the one that meant he was simply present, simply himself, not dressed up in any version of himself that he thought someone else wanted to see. The door to Suite 912 opened before he knocked. Valeth was standing just inside. She was not in full royal regalia this morning. She wore a long dark blue tunic, simple and clean, her silver crown set aside. Without all the formal layers, she looked younger somehow, and considerably more tired, and more real. The twins were awake. They were sitting at a small table near the window eating breakfast, and when Marcus appeared in the doorway, they both looked up, and Sierra immediately pointed at the ventilation grill he had fixed the day before as if to show him it was still working correctly. Marcus looked at the grill, nodded. Good, he said simply. Valeth watched this exchange. Then she gestured for him to come inches. They sat across from each other at the main table. She had a long list of things she had prepared to say. Formal words about the position, about compensation, about the official arrangement she was proposing. She had written several versions of the speech in her head throughout the night. She said none of them. Instead, she just looked at him and said, quietly and directly, my children have been through more loss than children their age should ever carry. Their father died before they were old enough to remember him. They have grown up surrounded by people who are paid to care for them and who are afraid of them. They can feel the difference. They always could. Marcus listened. They felt something different from you yesterday, she said. I don't know exactly what it was, but I need to ask you whether you would consider spending time with them. Not as a caretaker in any formal sense. Not with a protocol or a plan. Just being present. The way you were yesterday. Marcus thought about this for a moment. I don't know anything about raising alien children, he said honestly. Neither did the 47 specialists, Valeth said. They knew a great deal about protocols, and none of it helped. Marcus looked at the twins. Kale was watching him with those silver eyes. Sierra had gone back to her breakfast, but her attention was clearly on the conversation. I'd need to keep my maintenance assignment, Marcus said. Level 9 still needs cleaning. Valeth looked at him. Something moved behind her eyes. Of course. And I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not, he said. I'm just going to be myself. I don't have techniques. I don't have strategies. I'll just show up and be honest and clean things that need cleaning. That, said Valith, and her voice was very quiet, is exactly what they need. Marcus nodded. He looked at the twins again. Cale had gotten up from the table and walked over to stand beside him. Very close but not touching, the way children stand when they trust someone, but are not quite ready to say so out loud yet. Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out a small spare multi-tool. He held it out to Cale. Cale looked at it, looked at Marcus, picked it up carefully with both hands. "I'll show you how it works tomorrow," Marcus said. Cale turned the tool over in his small hands. Then he looked up at Marcus with those silver eyes and smiled. It was a real smile. Not performed, not cautious, not the careful expression of a child who had learned to smile at adults because adults expected it. Just a real, simple, genuine smile. And in that moment, the most powerful queen in the known galaxy stood quietly by the window with tears on her cheeks, watching a janitor with a faded name tag do what 47 experts had failed to do. He had not come with a plan. He had not come with credentials. He had come with honesty, steadiness, and the quiet willingness to simply be present without pretending. And that had been enough. More than enough. It had been everything. Here is the part nobody talks about. 3 months after that morning, Meridian Cross Station officially updated its caretaker protocols for high-sensitivity alien children visiting on diplomatic assignments. The new guidelines, reportedly drafted with input from an unnamed maintenance staff member, focused on one core principle above all others: authenticity over expertise. Marcus Webb never got a fancy title. He never asked for one. He kept his level 9 assignment for another 2 years, showing up every morning. Gray cap, faded name tag, mop bucket. He also showed up at Suite 912 every morning. Sometimes he fixed things. Sometimes he just sat with the twins while they drew pictures or played games. Sometimes he taught Cale how to use the multi-tool to repair small broken things around the suite. He never pretended to be more than he was. And that turned out to be the rarest, most powerful thing in the galaxy. If this opened your eyes, the next story will shake your world even harder. So let's bring this home. 47 experts walked into that room carrying everything they knew. One janitor walked in carrying nothing but himself. And the children, who could feel everything, chose the one person who was not pretending. The lesson here is not that expertise is worthless. The lesson is that no credential, no training, no title can replace the simple power of showing up as exactly who you are. That is what Marcus Webb did. That is what changed everything. If this story hit you the way it hit me, hit that like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it tells the algorithm that real storytelling still matters. Subscribe if you are new here. We release HFY stories every week, and some of the upcoming ones are going to absolutely wreck you in the best possible way. Comment below and tell me this. Have you ever been the unexpected person who walked into an impossible situation and somehow made it work? I want to read your stories. And if you want more right now, the next video is right there on your screen. One more story. One more world. Let's go.